Welcome back to part 2 of this video exploring the history of the UK political parties. In part 1, which came out on Wednesday, we covered the Conservative Party, the Labour Party, and Sinn Féin. So we're doing this in chronological order in case you weren't aware. So this means next up on the list, which we're going to get to after we tell you to please subscribe to the channel. Your subscription matters, and without your support, then we can't make these videos. So please support us as best as you can, whether that's just simply subscribing or buying me a coffee. buymeacoffee.com/collective histories. Okay, back to the video. So part 2 is going to begin with the Welsh National Party, and that's Plaid Cymru. So Plaid Cymru was founded in 1925, and its current leader is Rhan ap Iorwerth. So let's begin. So for those of you who don't siarad Cymraeg, that means speak Welsh, Plaid Cymru means the Party of Wales, and is a political party in Wales that advocates for Welsh independence and the promotion of Welsh culture and identity. So Plaid Cymru was founded on August 5th, 1925 in Pwllheli, North Wales. Its establishment was influenced by the desire to promote Welsh nationalism and address concerns about the erosion of Welsh language and culture. Of course, this was a different time in British and Welsh history. Wales was still considered as part of England. There were attempts to suppress the Welsh language, such as the Welsh Not, which was still, contrary to popular belief, still in use at this time, and therefore the formation of Plaid Cymru was a relatively straightforward formation to make. And in the early years, Plaid Cymru focused on cultural issues and autonomy for Wales within the United Kingdom. Gwynfor Evans, one of the party's prominent early leaders, played a crucial role in shaping its direction, which was considered as more of a centre-left or left-wing direction, I guess. And then in the post-war period and their political engagement. So Plaid Cymru became more politically active in the post-war period. The party contested its first parliamentary election in 1951 but did not win any seats until 1966, when Gwynfor Evans was elected as the Member of Parliament for Carmarthen. If you're wondering why they were suddenly elected in 1966, well, you need to think about a certain event which happened in 1965, and you can think of Capel Celyn, which was the Welsh village which was flooded to make water for Liverpool. So yes, this was partly the reason for Plaid Cymru's growth at the time. And then in the 1970s, Plaid Cymru actively campaigned for the establishment of a devolved Welsh Assembly. Many in Plaid Cymru, same as with the Scottish National Party and way earlier Sinn Féin, Plaid Cymru believed that devolution was the natural progression towards ultimate independence from the United Kingdom. And in 1979 devolution referendum, although a majority of voters supported devolution, it failed to meet the 40% threshold required for implementation. Then in 1980, Gwynfor Evans' protest came. Gwynfor Evans undertook a hunger strike in 1980 to protest against the Thatcher government's decision not to establish a Welsh national language television channel. And this contributed to a change in policy, and S4C, a Welsh language channel, was eventually established. It's still on TV today, and it's still a Welsh language channel. The only one, in fact. Then in 1997, devolution took place. So the devolution referendum marked a turning point. The Welsh people voted in favour of devolution, leading to the establishment of the National Assembly for Wales in 1999, or the Senedd. Plaid Cymru played a significant role in shaping the devolved government, and it has been in power on numerous occasions as part of the minority party in a minority government alongside Labour, which has won every single election, though not always with a majority. Plaid Cymru underwent leadership changes in the 2000s, and under leaders such as Ewan Wyn-Jones and later Leanne Wood, the party continued to focus on Welsh independence and issues such as economic development, education, and healthcare. It has also moved more in a left-wing direction during this time and is considered less of a centre-left party and more of a socialist party. Plaid Cymru has been a major player in Welsh politics in recent years, and especially in the context of devolved elections. In the 2016 National Assembly for Wales election, Plaid Cymru became the second largest party in terms of seats, whereas the Conservatives have grown since then and reclaimed their number 2 position. Plaid Cymru remain a force within the National Assembly elections and are a considerable threat to both Labour and the Tories, as they have a unifying factor of Welsh independence, and this seems to unite people on the right and the left who would respectively vote for the Tories and Labour. And then in 2023, Plaid Cymru gained Rhan ap Iorwerth as leader, and since then the party is going through something of a reflection period following the leadership of Adam Price. So the future looks bright for Plaid Cymru, and we can only see what happens next. And next we visit the Scottish sister party of Plaid Cymru, and that's the Scottish National Party, or the SNP. So here's a brief history of the SNP. The SNP was founded in 1934 with the merger of the National Party of Scotland and the Scottish Party. The party aimed to represent the interests of Scotland and to pursue Scottish self-government. Again, much like Plaid Cymru and Sinn Féin before it. So early years and World War II, the SNP had a relatively small impact during its early years, and its activities were limited. The outbreak of World War II disrupted political activities, but the SNP continued to exist and advocate for Scottish interest. And then in the post-war period, the SNP gained increased visibility. The party contested elections and started to gain support, particularly in by-elections. Winnie Ewing won the Hamilton by-election in 1967, marking a significant breakthrough for the SNP. However, Scotland was traditionally a Labour stronghold, and this was a serious problem for the SNP at the time because, much like Labour, the SNP was a left-wing party, or at least a centre-left party. The SNP played a crucial role in the call for the Scottish Parliament, and in the 1979 devolution referendum, although the majority of voters supported devolution, it did not meet the threshold set by the UK government for implementation. Sounds familiar, doesn't it? Again, the SNP has a very similar history to Plaid Cymru, and they are sister parties to this day. The 1980s then saw the SNP opposed to the policies of Prime Minister Margaret Thatcher, and the party gained support as a result. The 1987 general election saw the SNP winning a significant number of seats in the House of Commons, and this was the first period of growth for the SNP. And with Labour moving towards a more centre-right direction at this time, this was a strong case for the SNP to continue growing, which they did. And then the turning point for the SNP came with the establishment of the Scottish Parliament in 1999. Following a successful devolution referendum in 1997, the SNP formed the first Scottish executive with the support of the Liberal Democrats. Alex Salmond became the leader of the SNP in 1990, and he played a crucial role in transforming the party. Throughout the 2000s especially, the party continued to grow under his leadership, and he was considered a powerhouse of Scottish politics. And the SNP became the majority party in the Scottish Parliament in the 2007 elections, forming the first SNP-led government. Again, Alex Salmond was always in the news at this time. I remember him very, very prominently, and yeah, he kind of led the rise of the SNP during this period. Then in 2014, the SNP-led Scottish government held a referendum on Scottish independence. The No campaign prevailed, with 55% of voters choosing to remain in the United Kingdom. Of course, this would spell the end of Alex Salmond's leadership as the SNP leader, and he would stand down, which would pave the way for Nicola Sturgeon, who was undoubtedly the SNP's most successful leader, and she only stepped down this year. The United Kingdom's decision to leave the European Union because of Brexit led to renewed calls for Scottish independence, because of course Scotland voted overwhelmingly in favour of remaining within the European Union, and the SNP under the leadership of Nicola Sturgeon continued to advocate for independence, citing the desire of the Scottish people to remain within the European Union. Then in the 2021 Scottish Parliament election, the SNP secured a fourth consecutive term in government, and Nicola Sturgeon continued as the First Minister of Scotland until personal scandal interfered in 2023, and she stepped down to be replaced by Humza Yousaf, who is the current leader of the Scottish National Party. And even though the SNP remains the predominant force of political power within Scotland, its grasp on Scotland looks to be loosening, as Labour is regularly ahead in the polls these days. Perhaps not regularly, but at least a little bit, and it's cause for concern for the SNP, so it should be interesting to see what happens next. Remember that we're continuing in chronological order, and next we have the Social Democratic and Labour Party, or the SDLP, which is a political party in Northern Ireland that was formed to advocate for civil rights, social democracy, and a non-violent approach to the resolution of the Troubles. So, the SDLP was founded in 1970 by a group of politicians and civil rights activists, including Gerry Fitz, Austin Currie, and John Hume. The party aimed to provide a nationalist and non-violent alternative to the more radical and militant approaches taken by other groups, such as Sinn Féin, during the Troubles. The formation of the SDLP occurred against the backdrop of the civil rights movement in Northern Ireland, which sought to address issues such as discrimination against Catholics in areas like housing and employment. The party initially focused on civil rights issues and non-violent protest. Then the Sunningdale Agreement of 1973, the SDLP played a role in the Sunningdale Agreement, a power-sharing arrangement that aimed to address the political situation within Northern Ireland. The agreement collapsed in 1974 due to opposition from some unionist groups and paramilitary violence. John Hume, one of the party's founders, became the leader of the SDLP in 1979, and Hume was instrumental in promoting dialogue and cooperation between nationalist and unionist communities, and he played a key role in the peace process. The SDLP was actively involved in negotiation and promotion of the Good Friday Agreement in 1998. The agreement established a devolved government for Northern Ireland and outlined a framework for power sharing between unionists and nationalists. Then, following the implementation of the Good Friday Agreement, the SDLP participated in the devolved government of Northern Ireland. Leaders such as John Hume and later Mark Durkan served as Deputy First Minister and Minister for Finance. Then in the 2000s, the SDLP experienced a decline in electoral support, facing competition from other nationalist parties, particularly Sinn Féin, who had become less radical, at least in comparison to their former identity. The party struggled to maintain its previous levels of influence, and it's been on the wane since. The SDLP underwent leadership changes in the 2010s. Alistair MacDonald served as leader from 2011 to 2015, and was then followed by Colm Eastwood, who took over the leadership role. The SDLP experienced a resurgence in the 2019 European Parliament election, with leader of Colm Eastwood winning a seat. In the 2022 Northern Ireland Assembly election, the SDLP increased its seat count, positioning itself as a significant player in the political landscape. So even though it's been on the wane in the past, it does look to be going through some some kind of resurgence. So here's hoping the SDLP can bounce back. And we'll hopefully bounce back too in the next video. That's right, this video has become so long we need to split it into 3 parts now. So my apologies, everyone. I didn't expect this to happen, but it turns out that there is a lot of history in these parties. And we haven't even got to the Lib Dems yet. We said we'd get there last time, and they didn't. Because the Lib Dems, people, they're so confusing. Like, they were founded in the 1980s, but were they really? Because there was a very old Liberal Party before that, a very successful one before that, which had actually won elections, but the current Liberal Democrats have never won because Nick Clegg. Anyway, yes, that's all we have to say. We'll come back to this in the next video. The next video, it definitely will be the Lib Dems, because I think they're third. Like, they are the third in line to be covered in chronological order. So here we go. Yes, next episode. And if you want more content such as this, please hit the subscribe button. We are making 3 videos a week, long videos a week, and every single day, without fail, we are making an On This Day in History short video. And yeah, we're going to keep making this content, so please subscribe if you want to see more. Don't let yourself be fooled into not subscribing and missing out on everything we're giving you. So follow us on Facebook. You can follow us at facebook.com/Collective Histories page. And if you want to follow us on Instagram, you can do so at instagram.com/The Collective Histories. And you can follow us on Twitter at twitter.com/Collective Histo. And you can buy me a coffee, because I'm always thirsty. I'm very thirsty, especially when talking like this. So you can buy me a coffee at buymeacoffee.com/Collective Histories. Okay, we'll be back on Monday, and Monday's video may be something different. It may be part 3 to this. We'll see. I will post on YouTube before then to let you know. So have a lovely weekend, and we'll see you all very soon with the next video, whatever that may be. Okay, goodbye from Collective History.